Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now recently we had a family friend and buddy, Tyler, come hang out for a few days. He came from out of town. We were looking for something to do and said, hey, why don't we go to the range, get a little bit of shooting in, it'll be fun. But, well, as a reviewer and somebody who's in the business to make videos, said, hey man, do you mind being on a YouTube video with me? And, well, I've had this topic in mind for quite a while. The topic of, well, when it comes to firearms, what do you prefer? What are the pros and cons of your iron sights versus a open reflex or green or red dot optic or a weapon-mounted laser? Now, I don't care if it's a handgun, I don't care if it's a rifle, or maybe in some cases even a shotgun. There are definitely going to be trade-offs, pros and cons, things that work or don't work, and the things you need to consider when it comes to your sighting system. And whether or not your system is iron sights, or whether or not your system some sort of an optic, or even that weapon-mounted laser, you need to keep these things in mind. And for me, this was a great opportunity to practice and try, go through some of this, but thinking about it critically while you're in the moment. And I don't know about you, but you know, you might think about things, but until you practically do it, sometimes it doesn't all become clear. So that's what we're into today. And so when we come back, we're gonna mix this up. We'll go into some field use footage. I'll roll in my thoughts and sort of discussion points. Then we'll come back to the studio and I'll give you my final thoughts. And so with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. In today's video, more of a discussion, so do me a favor, weigh in the comment section below. If you have opinions about anything discussed today, I'd love to hear from you. So if you're a novice like me or even an expert, I'd love to hear your opinions. I think there's a lot to be gained from hearing your experience. So again, please weigh in the comment section below. You did great, man. That was solid. Takes a little getting used to it, man, but you made some nice adjustments.
A little bit, not too bad.
Yeah, no, you did great. That's more than fine. You know, you only lost one. The rest of them, they're all a kill. And so generally speaking, iron sights at 7 yards, I would expect to be fairly tight, especially at the speed and rate that we were shooting. Fairly slow, fairly methodical, paying attention, taking our time. So for me, this is pretty typical. I mean, you can see I did lose one, but for the most part, very nice, tight group, exactly where I'd want it to be. So that worked out just fine. You know, Tyler doesn't shoot all the time, but he did a fantastic job getting used to the firearm, which isn't even his in the first place, getting used to it, taking his time, and definitely landing the shots. Now, the one thing I can say about the iron sights in this particular case, if you notice, our target was very bright and illuminated, and we were in the shadows. So what that means is, as you're trying to get on the firearm, and if you want to be target acquired, you're trying to look past your rear sight, past that front sight, and towards the target. Well, your front sight is a shadow. It's dark. So if it has a dot or a line, or depending on your type of sight, there's a good possibility you might not even see that. And if you have a fiber optic sight, which does rely on the sun to beam through that sight and make it glow or any sort of light, it's not really going to do that if you're in the shadows and there's not a lot of light. So all in all, I do have to say that even for the iron sights, it was a little bit difficult to see being in the shadows and looking out towards the bright light. But again, we were definitely effective. So you can see that's a figment of this not being zeroed at this distance. So it's shooting low. So that would require a correction and me pushing higher in my sight picture to get this to hit dead nuts in the middle of that target. So that's a consideration. But let's see how you do.
Let me just put this in my gun and I'll help you with yours.
There you go. Not bad.
Yeah, that's
All fairly close in about 6 to 7 inch spread. They can all do some damage, all on target. How'd you feel about the dot? Have you shot a dot before?
I've shot it a couple times.
Yep.
I do like that a little bit better, but
It's just a matter of sticking
figuring
with
out
it,
where
right?
it's hitting.
Let's see how that is. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out as we go to further distance, because again, that is zeroed at about 15 yards. So I bet you at 50, if we're aiming about the same, we're going to be a little bit more accurate, but our shots might be slightly high. So we'll see how that plays out. Now for the green dot optic, what I can tell you is that for me, I definitely start to increase my rate of fire once I get to leveraging that reflex sight. For me, that's something that I've been working on intentionally, and you can see through the footage speeding up a little bit. Now, does that come into play with my accuracy? Probably, but the other thing I can tell you is it seems to have been off just a tiny bit. And the reason why I say that, well, if you look at my iron sights, it wasn't trigger, pull, or squeeze, or anything like that, or anticipation, or recoil that was making my shots off. They were pretty much spot on. And so you can see once I start speeding up, some of that could go to the wayside, and my shots were a little bit low and a little bit left. Tyler spread out just a little bit. Again, this is not really something that he does all that often and does not have all that much experience with the green dot optic. But generally speaking, if you look at our overall size of the shots, 5 or 6 inch spread, not too bad. So all in all, I would say successful, at least so far, at 7 yards. So now we're moving on to the laser. Right away, I can tell you that I'm probably going to have a hard time seeing the corner of the paper. The bottom left-hand side is very bright. A lot of sun pushing on that corner. That would be one drawback to the laser, the ability to see it in bright light, but let's test it out. We'll see how it goes.
Let's do it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm going up to 28.
How far do I push that cap on?
It's on. If you got it on there, it's on. Yeah,
That
it's
is
not supposed
clearly
to be on there, super tight.
very low.
We're just gonna-
Right?
Yeah, shoot it. They shoot high a little bit. Shoot a little low.
So I need to bring this up. I don't even know where that went. I don't even see it. Are these going low? I don't even see it.
I don't even see that.
I think they're going low.
Oh yeah, you're about 8 inches.
There it is. There we go. Not great. Alright, so that's a bust. That's a bust. Better. And it's certainly fairly quick. Nice.
I like that a lot better.
Interesting, right? So it definitely takes a lot less to have to focus and aim strategically. I mean, you kind of can hold the gun at any angle even,
Yep.
right? So that's
Kind of nice just to look at it and shoot.
right. Self-defense, definitely right on. Actually, your grouping's not bad. I mean, that's just, getting used to the gun and, a little bit of feel on the trigger. But other than that, I mean, the sights did what they had to. So you definitely saw the pitfalls of the laser at first. I mean, being horribly adjusted. It was just, I took the weapon light and slammed it on the pistol and said, let's go to the range with no sort of zeroing whatsoever, and found out the hard way right away. Now, I was able to make some pretty nice adjustments, brought everything back into decent, and at that point, speeding up nice and quick, definitely effective on the target, no problem. Both for me and for Tyler. Again, Tyler not being, the most, just experienced. He does this a little bit, not a lot. And, you watch my channel, I go to the range quite a bit. And I have to say, he did a very good job, all things considered, and has almost everything within a reasonable spread. So, as I was saying with the laser, the nice thing is you really don't need to point and be that accurate with your technique nearly as much as with the other sighting systems. So getting that dot onto your target, and it does bounce around a little bit, so it takes a little getting used to settling that laser back onto your target, but generally speaking, very effective, at least at 7 yards. All right, so same thing here. First we're going to start iron sights, then we're going to go green dot, then we're going to go laser, but this time out to 50 feet. So, I do expect that we're going to have a little bit of a difference in terms of kind of where things align. Now, we're not changing any of the elevation or windage adjustments on the optics, but rather going to have to adjust out at distance. So I feel like at 7 yards, we got things pretty fairly well dialed in, but now going out to 50 feet, it's going to be a different story, but let's give it a shot. Not bad. 50 feet, that's a pretty long shot. And, you got actually, I'd say 5 or 6 are right in that, meat of the, that's a solid body shot, right?
About 8-inch.
And the rest of them are just a grazer. I mean, you might be knocking someone off, but you're grazing. So, yeah,
Good.
I think you did good. So, iron sights at 50 feet. I was definitely loosening up a little bit, but not too bad. Again, generally speaking, a 5 or 6 inch spread, that's pretty good for me. I'm not usually that tight, and I feel like I was seeing things pretty well. Tyler spread out a little bit as well. You can see probably more like a 10-inch spread in some cases, but again, on paper, not too bad. So the iron sights can be a little bit difficult to see at distance. What I can definitely say is the iron sights on my particular handgun at this time are huge. The front sight is large. So you do tend to completely cover your target. So that large dot sitting on your target can pretty much obscure it. So it's not going to be pinpoint precision, but from a self-defense perspective, it was absolutely good enough. I can tell the optic is already off. Pulled one hard, but not too bad.
It was pretty good.
Actually, I think I was tighter with the iron sights by quite a bit. But I was also going slower because I knew I had to go slower. So I feel like the green dot made me kind of
Yeah, you
rush a
would've
little
noticed it.
bit,
It changed
but
fire.
that's the way it goes. All right, you're up.
It's definitely shooting pretty good.
Yeah, there's nice.
Have you shot it with this?
No, not yet.
It's shooting shit back in my face too, so now I have glasses.
Okay. So
I don't know if I like that at farther distance.
it wasn't as tight, and I feel like it's partially an adjustment thing. So with the optic, you have to zero it at a given distance.
Yep.
And I feel like the fact that it wasn't zeroed perfectly is now starting to show itself at distance because the inconsistencies are projecting more at longer distance. So the iron sights, you can kind of stay damn close because there's nothing to adjust and the height over bore is consistent. But here now with the optic, I think, because I can tell you, I was compensating when I was aiming. I was compensating for where I thought zero would be. And you're proving that the zero being off on that green dot is now really extending itself and extrapolating itself over distance. So I'm with you on that.
A little harder.
Harder, right? All right, now on to the laser. And there is absolutely nothing more frustrating than needing to compensate with a sighting system, realizing that you're off, compensating, and trying to make it work. I was struggling and Tyler was struggling. You can see most of my shots were low and left, and his were also low and left. That's just an indication that the zeroing, both the windage and elevation adjustments, were certainly off. I feel like I tried to get the elevation and windage dialed in to around 15 yards, and of course shooting now at 50 feet, a little bit beyond the 15 yards, so it should have been close, but it clearly was not close enough. So one of the deficiencies with an optic, your ability to appropriately zero it, definitely need to be careful. I don't know where that went. I think I'm low and right. Adjusted and recovered. Not great, but those are all
That sucks.
pretty
All
close
right.
to hits, I
What else
think.
you gotta do now?
Now you'll see your shots are going to be low and to the right, so right away you might find you're a little bit off of the paper. So you probably, I would start a little bit up and left and try to make the adjustment if you can. Okay.
You kinda need like a hammer to take. Maybe try one more cap if that doesn't work. It's good just that some. There we go. Anyway, you can see the cap in there. Just avoid using that.
So again,
Just try and
you know,
get
the
that
fact that the
cylinder fire.
optic or the laser needs to be zeroed at a given distance,
You might
and based
knock
on the
that
fact that
down
we
to-
zeroed it at 7 yards, it wasn't showing how far off it was, but now that we're out at 50 feet, you can see, I mean, you got a nice group, but where to go?
I'm kind of at longer distance. I kind of like the iron sights, or just looking at the green dot and shooting.
Yep. What do you feel like
There it is.
about the laser?
Or the laser.
You thought the laser, yeah, iron sight's probably your first choice?
Green dot at far distance was a little too shaky
Yep.
to get it right on.
Yep.
But I either like the iron sights or the laser.
And
Laser, you can just look and shoot.
yeah, I mean, we don't even have to have like good technique. It's, you know, I know for me, I even was holding it, I was holding the gun like low. I was like looking over the gun almost to see where my hits were while I was shooting. So I was using horrible technique with the laser. and getting it close. You'd never get away with that on the iron sights.
Yep.
But and the green dot, I have to admit, I was not a big fan at any particular distance beyond the the fairly close range. The laser at 50 feet for me actually went pretty well. Again, very much within a 5 to 6 inch diameter circle. The pattern pretty tight and a whole bunch of hits right in the target. So that was pretty good. Tyler struggled a little bit, but again, not a big deal. He still has a pretty nice pattern. It's a little bit low and a little bit right. I think that's something that over time, getting familiar with the system would have worked, and getting familiar with the handgun would have worked just fine for him. But speeding up, the speed and the ability to reacquire your target with the laser is fantastic. So not only do you have something that's positive right on that target, but you can actually go quickly and reacquire that second follow-up shot, third follow-up shot, fourth follow-up shot without needing to be perfect in technique, and you definitely would not be able to get away with that, certainly with the iron sights, and probably not with the reflex sight either. So from that perspective, the laser is very effective. You just need to be careful with it, and you have to get it dialed in. So more time getting your optics and everything working and refined is going to pay off in the end. I don't know about you, but I definitely don't put in all the time necessary to make sure everything is dead nuts perfect. So that's probably something I'll need to do in the future. 100 yards, iron sights. See how we do.
Wait, I'm getting a pain hit. No, that's not very good.
Got one. Let's see how you do. You're shooting a little high.
Shooting high.
Yep. Ooh, that just missed. Little low and left. Low. Got it. Nice. Ah, two. Nice. Got two. You're better than me. Good job.
Pretty good.
So now, green dot optic. This is really just gonna pull and pray. I know there's no way this is in alignment. So the entire time it's going to be making an adjustment and trying to bring my shot back down onto target with what I see. So it's not going to be an easy shot, but again, it's only one way to figure that out, and that's to try. Oh, that's so close. I actually feel like this is not that far off, actually, at this distance. I didn't hit any, but it was close. So, I don't know, I'm curious to get your impression on this. Oh, you got it! Last one. Good job. Nice. Let me ask you this: with that, are you shooting with one eye or two?
That's what I was just gonna say. At first, I've been shooting with one eye, and that last one, I decided to open both eyes and just look at the green dot,
Yep.
and that actually worked better. I
Yep.
probably should have been doing that the whole time.
Yeah, it's something to get used to, especially without too much familiarity. But that's an important point about the green dot optics versus iron sights, is you can tend to really use both eyes open. So, you think the laser will reach that far out?
I bet it's gonna be a hard time seeing it.
Rolling. So, with the actual laser in the light, bright out, there's no way it's going to reach out to 100 yards. However, the target on the left-hand side of that mound is in the shadows. I'm going to attempt to see it, so I have to actually change my target in order to be seeing the laser. That's a fundamental problem already, but let's give it a shot. Maybe I'll be able to see it. I don't really know. There's no possible way. So we have hit the theoretical limit for that piece of technology. So that's definitely a consideration. Iron sights don't run out. Even the green dot, if appropriately adjusted, you can get on target, but the laser has hit its theoretical limit. So that is definitely interesting. I knew that would happen. I had a pretty good idea, but this absolutely proves it. So, all right, guys, there you have it, a discussion on, well, which is better ultimately, and is there such a thing as better, the iron sights versus the open reflex sight, or the green dot, or your weapon-mounted laser, and of course, each one with a pro and a con. Now, I was surprised at how overall just completely accurate the entire time the iron sights were. I knew that it would be, I figured it should be, but it definitely proved itself out, not just for me, but for Tyler as well. Both of us with fairly reasonable accuracy at all distances with the iron sights, and that's because they're fixed, that's because they're specifically made for the weapon, and that's because the height over bore fairly consistent, and you're not messing with windage. Once you get them dialed in, there's not too much to change, and do you need to adjust a little bit here and there? You do, but for the most part, a tried and true, absolutely bulletproof sighting system. So the iron sights were great. And again, the only thing that restricted my ability to see when you get into harsh shadows, and that's something that you're going to struggle with no matter what. To combat the shadows, well, the green dot, the open reflex sight, again, pretty darn good, worked very well, but there again were limitations. My zeroing was not great on this optic. I need to do a better job. I thought I had nailed it, but guess what? I didn't. That's important. That's something to think about. Now, a couple of things. One, did I zero this great in the first place? Hard to say. Maybe not. Maybe I didn't zero it at the most appropriate distances. That's another consideration. But furthermore, maybe it got knocked around. Now, I can't say for sure, but it's possible that that had happened. Maybe I didn't torque it down enough. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with an optic when you mount it. So different failure points definitely get introduced to the optic versus the iron sights. And the laser, well, bottom line is this. This can come on, come off, put it on, take it off. Doesn't matter. This weapon light goes on a different firearm all the time. And when I put this on, it was immediately completely off. Now, the one way that I was able to combat that was pretty much because I had the green dot. I was able to take the laser, line it in perfectly, elevation and windage adjustments to the green dot, and got it pretty damn close. Now, again, could I take my time and do a better job zeroing this? Of course, but what distance am I zeroing to? What's my overall objective? What I do need to say, and I love, you can be super sloppy with the laser. Turn it on pretty much at that point. I mean, I barely need to even focus on anything other than pulling the trigger when that green dot ends up on my target. I don't need to worry about which way I'm holding the firearm. I don't need to worry about my overall technique, and you cannot get away with that with the other sighting systems, certainly not with your iron sights. So from that perspective, really, really good. But a couple other things worth considering. You saw me struggle in the bright light. This is absolutely not going to be effective in bright light. That's a distinct limitation. But even at night, even if it was perfectly dark, maybe you don't want to give away your position. So that might not be the best either. So it depends on what you're trying to do. For me, what I really like and what I think is fantastic from a home self-defense perspective, I think the laser with the light would be great. The ability to positively identify your target, and then having the laser dead nuts on, you don't know what you're getting into. You might be running, you might be scrambling, you might be in an awkward position, but having that green dot, no matter how you're holding that firearm right on the target, that could be a huge advantage. So again, depending on what you're trying to do, depending on how precise you need to be or the exact scenario, you could go one of a number of ways. And quite frankly, you can see why I have all three on this particular handgun. And so, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Please weigh in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinions. This is coming from the novice. I'd love to hear from other, novice perspective and even experts alike. I think there's a lot to learn and to be gained about having these conversations. So get some conversation rolling in the comments section below. So, all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.